Hi, I'm Jen, the kinda old autistic lady, and today's topic is perhaps a controversial one. Have you ever experienced hallucinations as an autistic person and not known what they were? Or maybe understood that they were hallucinations, but were unsure if they were connected to your autism? Today's video, I'm going to spend some time discussing the hallucinations I have, which are auditory hallucinations. And I need to start with a disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. If you're having any type of hallucination that's causing you any type of distress, concern, losing sleep over it, other people in your life are concerned about it, if it's affecting your day-to-day ability to, cope with life, anything like that, talk to a medical professional, because hallucinations of all kinds can be caused by other issues or things going on than just autism. The reason I'm discussing this today is because it's a rather new thing that I've learned about that can be connected to autism. And it has made my life make so much more sense. There is an article that I'm going to put a link to the entire article in the description of this video. It's at theconversation.com, and the title of the article is "Autistic People Are 3 Times More Likely to Have Hallucinations." The author of that article is Elizabeth, and I don't know how to say her last name, but it is spelled Milne. I'm not sure the origin of that last name. There could be silent letters or spoken letters, so I'm not going to attempt. Just like I was saying a moment ago with the disclaimer about talking to a health professional, I'm also going to make a disclaimer that I have not seen, reviewed, or studied any of the research on this. So I'm not vouching for this article's validity or the methods by which they did their research or the methods by which they came to their conclusion. I'm simply discussing it because it's something I read, it really resonated with me, and it's a topic that I can't say that I've really seen very many videos about at all on YouTube. So with that said, I will put the link in the description. I encourage you to read that. There's also another article, and I'm going to bring this up on my phone, that actually is, I think, a really great resource in general. If I can find it, I know I have it. And in case any of you are wondering why I'm taking the time to look at this live, I'm having some voice issues after a recent surgery I had, and I'm not going to re-record because I only have so much voice. So I'll edit as much as I can. So there is a website called Neurodivergent Insights, neurodivergentinsights.com, and they have a blog post about hallucinations and autism with a really good infographic and some information about it. There is something that they put on the infographic there that says 6.3% of autistic adults answered yes to the following question: do you ever feel that someone is touching you, but when you look, nobody's there? It also says on that infographic that hallucination type experiences do happen at a higher rate among autistics, and that it could be due to different levels of neurotransmitters that play a role. There's also other things in the infographic, and I encourage you to look at that article. There's also some other really great infographics on that website of some things that really have made me think. I am not a member of that community. I'm not paid to be a member of it. I'm not trying to endorse anything. It's just 2 articles I came across today. So first, to back up and explain just a bit. I am a newly diagnosed autistic individual. I got an autism diagnosis in the early part of November of this year. And I basically feel like it informs everything in my life, because my autistic brain is what perceives the entire world and all of my experiences and all of my thoughts about those experiences. And so this channel and any other video you see here are going to be about the experiences I go through or I'm going through in my current everyday life that I think are tied to autism. Whether or not autism is the primary thing that causes or, is a contributor to those things, I will never be able to completely tease that out. What I will say is that there are certain types of experiences I personally have where I know that I am hearing things that are not real. That if one were to take sensitive equipment that's capable of picking up sound waves, that what I'm hearing would not be picked up by instrumentation because it's not there. That you could put 10 other people in the room with me, even 10 other autistic people, and they would not hear what I'm hearing. And as a middle-aged adult, it's taken me a lifetime to really completely understand that. And I'm not disturbed by it anymore. When I was younger, I have kind of an interesting backstory because I was raised in a very religious home. I was raised very Catholic and wanted to be a nun when I was a kid. And my father really encouraged that. And I read a lot of literature about mystics. So I was the kid that at 7 years old was wondering why I wasn't seeing visions. Okay. So I will say that things that are not physically present that could be captured by instrumentation, whether we're talking about visual, auditory, whatever, they've been something on my radar for a very long time. And in the case of mysticism, I am not a mystic. I've never come close to being a mystic. I've never had a religious vision, anything like that. But it is something I've paid attention to my entire life to see if it was happening. And as part of that observation, I have noticed that certain sensory things in my life spark auditory hallucinations. The biggest and most easily identifiable that I can come up with is white noise, brown noise, and pink noise. Specifically, that come out of the little machines that a person can buy for an office environment, a therapy environment, where you've got one device and it's got a speaker or two and it's meant for a room or a hallway. Every single time, if it's white noise, I hear things in the white noise that are not there. If it's pink noise, I hear different things that are actually not in the pink noise, but I hear. And brown noise does the same thing. They're all rhythmic and kind of a musical type of thing, but it's different from an earworm because I'm actually hearing it. It's not like a thought process. It's automatic and it drives me crazy. I tell my therapist about this all the time because he's got a white noise machine that's in the hall, and when I'm really not able to focus, I will tell him it's because I'm having auditory hallucinations from the white noise machine you have in your hallway. For that reason, I don't tend to use white noise machines except in very limited situations. It is, however, different with white noise that is pumped into a room. I have a background of working in contact centers, both on the phones and as a quality analyst. And the contact center that I spent the most time in when I worked there had fantastic white noise pumped in. And it was done really well. It was very well balanced. And the idea of it was so that you couldn't hear the person sitting next to you, even though there wasn't a cubicle wall separating you from that next person, and that the customer couldn't hear the conversation happening just, a few feet away. And I did not get auditory hallucinations from that type of white noise. I also, when I went to report for jury duty at one point, I was not picked for jury duty, but I had to sit while they were picking other jurors. And every once in a while, the attorney would want to talk to the judge, or the judge would want to talk to an attorney, and they would approach the bench. And then all of a sudden, there would be this big white noise that would happen, so that, nobody in the jury, or maybe even the defendant and the prosecutor, anybody that had an immediate need to know, couldn't hear that conversation. I did not have auditory hallucinations with that white noise either. And I'm convinced that it's due to like a multi-directional type of sound, that when I'm in a larger room and that white noise is coming from more than one location in the room, that the way it bounces off walls and intersects with how my brain functions, the auditory hallucinations do not happen. And so I will tell you, though, that the first time I bought a white noise machine and brought it home, I about jumped out of my chair when I first started listening, because I couldn't figure out what was going on. I also... how I think this effect is impacted by my autism, or why my autism might be a cause of it, is that I'm a very auditory processor. I have to hear myself say things to really fully process a lot of things, and having conversations with other people, hearing other people process and talk through their thoughts are all very helpful for me. But because I'm an auditory processor, like a whole lot of other autistic people, I constantly hear the buzz of electricity and other modern day sounds that the perhaps average autistic person does not hear. And, as is the case with a whole lot of us, we can't tune it out. It's just not possible. And so for me, those sounds are not painful per se, the way I think they are for some autistic people. I want to preface the conversation with that. But because I am so sensitive to it in terms of knowing that it's there and getting lots of different sounds coming from a room that my brain cannot block, what I think is happening is that my brain is saying, okay, I cannot block this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sound that your brain is going to interpret as coming from your auditory system that is going to be more tolerable than the sound you're hearing. That's my theory. I will say, however, that I many times wish it didn't happen, because it's not just white noise. The other time when it happens a lot is, this is really hard to explain. When I listen to music, sometimes I hear other music. I don't know how to explain it. Like, especially music that has been processed and is modern, that's got like synthesizers, electric guitars, anything that's not acoustic. My brain, I believe, hears that and interprets it like it's electricity, like it's that buzzing or like a white noise kind of a sound. And even though there are pitches and dynamics and different types of sounds there, the hallucination I almost always get out of it is to hear a rhythm that is different from what is playing in the actual music. Sometimes what I hear is exactly what's in the music, but I'll have that layered on top of it. And sometimes it'll completely replace it, in terms of how I'm able to cope. And so there are only certain types of music I will listen to for any length of time anyway. And it's also why I don't, unlike a whole lot of people that I know, I wear these headphones when I'm here and I'm recording because I don't want to get the actual audio feedback, and it tunes out like the sound of my cats in the next room and things like that. But I don't particularly like listening to a lot of modern music, and the gym is horrible for me. So many gyms have music pumped in to them, and I like a lot of the songs, especially things that are more of like a rock or a metal kind of sound, because they're so upbeat, and having that more upbeat actual beat and rhythm is, to me, easier to exercise to. But I tell you what, give me some acoustic music in my own headphones, and I can exercise to it much, much better. So I almost always end up listening to Celtic music because it's also kind of fast and upbeat when I exercise. However, in that situation, even if I have big headphones on, or even if I try earbuds, which I hate earbuds. That's a sensory nightmare all in and of itself. I still can't tune out the music that the gym has. And so it's kind of like hearing a third thing over both. So it's different. Like, I walk into the gym, if I heard a particular, let's say, metal song playing, I hear the song itself, and then I hear the thing my brain does with it. And then if I put headphones on and I listen to something like Celtic music or something else acoustic, or like Dimash music or something, that even though there's some electronic music instrumentation with his stuff, it's not heavy into that. That'll layer on top of it too. And I get really overwhelmed. I don't spend a ton of time in gyms for that reason. I have done it in the past, and almost always it's with earbuds or earplugs or something, because I just can't. When this whole auditory hallucination thing was the scariest for me, though, is when I was growing up, because growing up we didn't have central air, and I didn't have like a room air conditioner in my room or anything. So we always had fans running. And I get heavy auditory hallucinations with electric fans running. Not so much like ceiling fans, but the fans that, especially if they're older fans, kind of shake a little bit if they're old, and like how the metal is held together isn't as tight as when the thing was new. And so especially if it was oscillating, the directionality of that and how it would hit different things in the room, I was always stuck between a rock and a hard place. Number one, because I didn't understand what was happening. And number two, because, I was really hot. I needed the fan on. And so, a lot of people say, well, turn the TV on or play some other music. And then I have the same problem, but it compounds. So I am a person that when I'm by myself, I don't like a lot of stuff going on that's electronic. I don't like TV playing in the background. I don't like fans running. I don't necessarily like music playing unless it's something I'm really into, like Dimash. Or unless it's acoustic. Because acoustic music doesn't do it to me. It's completely absent from acoustic music, which is why I think this is something to do with the electricity sound. And when I was a little kid, because I didn't, number one, I didn't know I was autistic. Autism wasn't on anybody's radar for girls in my orbit anyway. And even if it had been, I don't think I would have been diagnosed, because I didn't go to public school. I went to Catholic school. And because I was functional in a way that I don't think my parents would have spent all kinds of money to get me assessed for, just to be frank. But when I was a young child, and I would have the hallucinations, and my parents weren't hearing them, especially at night when I'm scared of like the normal little kid things, like monsters in the closet, and some other religious things like demons and things. And I have stories about, subject a 5-year-old to middle-aged Catholicism and writings of mystics, and you get exposed to things that perhaps a young child should not be exposed to in the way that I was. So I was kind of scared to begin with. And I won't go down that rabbit hole more of why that was, because there's a whole story. But with that said, because that's where my mind was as a kid, in addition to the normal, like, monster, scary kind of stuff that, I think all kids have, it wasn't a good combination. Because, of course, my parents would come in the room and they couldn't hear it. And if they shut the fan off, I couldn't hear it anymore. And if they turn the lights on, it's a different kind of buzz. So sometimes it would just change what I heard, on top of the electricity itself. And, my parents, I'm sure, thought that it was just the normal, my kid's scared of monsters in the closet kind of a thing. And when I came across these 2 articles quite recently, I just had an aha moment of course that's what's happening. Of course. That's what's going on. That's why I'm hearing them. It's not from other types of psychological things or other types of, because there can be a lot of causes for hallucinations. And I have never been one to hear voices or, I don't want to say I've never had a visual hallucination, because I think I have, but it's not really something I can easily describe, and it's not something that happens often, and it's always something that I know is not real. It's not delusions or anything like that. So read up on it if you think that this is something that could apply to you, because there are some things that the articles bring up about how certain experiences can make this worse in people, like bullying. And in autistic individuals, of course, as we know, experience bullying at rates that are horrible. So there we go. There you have it. It's kind of an odd topic. I hope you found it helpful. Like and subscribe if you did. And if you'd like me to talk more about things like this, let me know. And I wish you well, and thanks for watching.